This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Another 18-inning affair from 7 years ago. Game 3 for the Dodgers against the Red Sox. Full count on Freeman. Little delivers. Freeman gets one high in the air. Straight away center field. Varsho at the wall. Gone! Freddie Freeman, Mr. World Series, ends the marathon at midnight.
Okay, first of all, that's how it sounded last night in Los Angeles as Freddie Freeman walks it off for the Dodgers in Game 3, 6-5 against the Toronto Blue Jays. I love the sound difference in the play-by-play voice of "We are on inning 18. This game is never going to end. It's going to go 7 hours. Freddie Freeman does it again!" Like, so good.
So I don't know. I mean, I think we were all exchanging text messages. I think you stayed up for the whole. Did you stay up for the whole thing? Well, as you remember,
as you know,
I was going to say,
it's very
good for you.
hard for me.
Very good for you. But part of it. So when I heard that just now, because that's the first time I've heard it, my initial thought was we had 2 prior at bats in the innings before where you thought it was gone. And they both died at the track, so I'm in his shoes.
Yeah,
where it's like this this one's probably dying at the track too. And then you realize oh no, this one actually might be gone, and it was. What a marathon! And here's the thing: there are times when these extra innings games, especially in postseason, they suck. This game was great. It had everything. The defensive plays all over the board were absolutely tremendous. The dynamic with Ohtani, will he, won't he? Will they walk him? Do you walk him here? What do you do? This game had almost everything. And what a finish for almost on the dot a year ago, where we watched Freddie Freeman, from a suite at Allegiant Stadium, while very inebriated, watching UNLV and Boise State, hit a walk-off dinger in the World Series. Do it again.
Yeah.
Wow. That was awesome.
First player in World Series history, by the way, with multiple career walk-offs. Obviously, a grand slam when he did it a year ago. Again, 6-5 the final here. This is the second longest game in postseason history. 18 innings, 6 hours, 39 minutes. Game ended around 11:50 Pacific time, 2:50 Eastern. For any of you out there on the East Coast that stayed up and wanted to see how this ended, especially those of you Toronto locals trying to see if you could get it done. Another World Series record, though. There were a few last night, as you would expect in the game like that. The Dodgers used a record 10 different pitchers, a combined record of 19 in the game. The Blue Jays left 19 runners on base, but the Dodgers left 18. So first and second in World Series records there as well. Just a crazy, crazy game, as you mentioned, and it had everything. And Shohei has the leadoff double. He finishes the game with 2 homers, 2 doubles, including the solo shot that tied the game at 5. He reached base 9 times in the game. And I know we're going to listen to some sound from both managers on this, but I am curious your opinion with just not pitching to him anymore down the stretch of the game, and unintentionally walking him at one point as well. But what do you do moving forward with Shohei at the plate? Do you just continue to pitch around him, or do you pitch to him? How do you see it?
I mean, I think that I think it depends on the situation, right? Late in the game, whatever it is, who's on, who's not. But in those, I had no problem with walking him every single time down the stretch. Look, first off, it's part of the rules. If you don't like it, then we have to talk about changing the rules of baseball. But even then, even his last at bat, that was an intentional walk for all intents and purposes. The pitcher threw 4 balls out of the zone, just maybe seeing if he would swing on something, and that wasn't the case. So I'm down with it if that's the way that you feel like. And by the way, they extended the game very long. They were doing the right thing outside of it. But you just think about it, Stormy. I mean, because we were talking about this last night when we were out. It's okay, let's get Shohei Ohtani out of here. I'd rather face Mookie Betts. I'd rather face Freddie Freeman.
Yeah.
It's
pick your poison.
Yes, it's such a stacked lineup.
Sure, pitch around him because we've got multiple MVPs. Right. It's just crazy. But to that end, let's hear first from John Schneider on pitching around Ohtani, and then we'll get to Dave Roberts after that.
Mound visit, we're trying to pitch around him. You know what I mean? And you trust Sir Anthony to make pitches to do that. And sometimes for pitchers, it's hard to do that, when you're kind of trying to throw a ball and didn't put it where you want to put it. But, he had a great game. He's a great player. But I think, after that, you just kind of take the bat out of his hands.
So he's talking, that was actually, I thought, one of the funnier moments of the game. So Sir Anthony Dominguez, in the bottom of the 7th inning, as he mentions, I was laughing at this. They have this, it's a one-run game. And so they have this big mound meeting, right? Yeah. Everybody comes out. They're doing the thing where they're covering their mouths and they're talking to each other about, like, okay, what are we going to do here? What are we going to do? The first pitch is a meatball down the middle of the plate. So it was one of those, Stormy, where the second it left his hand, and at the spot we were at, multiple people exclaimed before Ohtani even swung the bat. You knew, like, oh, this is right down the middle. What is this guy doing? And sure enough, Ohtani just crushes it and ties the game. And then after that, you're like, I mean, what are we going to do here? We can't do this in certain situations. We just got to get him out of here. We can't face him because he's been so good. And it's incredible, dude. You
mentioned where you were at. Apparently, it was too short notice. We couldn't get the photo. But I was supposed, yesterday, Tim Murray and I were supposed to have a nice phone call conversation. Obviously, right. He's so in depth with Notre Dame football, and I'm covering the Notre Dame BC game coming up on Saturday. He was supposed to give me a call on his way home from VSiN Primetime. Instead, he meets up with you to watch the World Series. Right. Y'all are throwing back Modelo's, having a good old time. Forget about me in the wings.
You got a picture of him.
It was a great photo.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. And what's funny is, to the point of this marathon, Tim's on his way out after he gets done with primetime, and you're thinking, game's going to be over by the time he gets here. He got a full game. He got a full 9 innings out of it by the time he got there. You both have
children at home.
Oh, yeah. Well, there reaches a point. I talked about this with Mitch and our boys Dave and Jensen this morning. Mitch, of course, on Pod of the Futures. And you reach a point where I had to stay. Yes. You get to the 15th inning, 14th inning, you're like, why am I even thinking about leaving?
But then
it's
now? Can you imagine leaving and then having to hear it in the car and not even get to see the moment, especially a moment like that, no less, the way that it ended?
Right. It's also, look, let's be honest. It's 1 o'clock in the morning by the time I'm already in trouble at home. So there's no making the degrees any better here. I might as well just steer in and see what's going on. And even by the time I was on with Dave and Jensen, my wife hadn't woken up. So I was like, I don't know, boys. I might be in trouble still. I have no clue. I'm going to find out here in an hour or so. I wasn't, by the way. It was great. But dude, when you're out there and you're that deep, you gotta stick it out. There's no way you can go to sleep. I'm surprised how many people I've talked to that toughed it out. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that did go to sleep.
No, I think Kelly took a nap, is what he said, in between.
Those of us on the West Coast, I don't
inning.
think we have an excuse.
No, Sean.
Anyone on the East Coast, I totally get it. Go the hell to bed. It's 2:50, especially if it's not one of your teams.
Yes.
I get it. Here, I am an old grandma. I go to sleep at 9:30 every night. Even I can stay awake to midnight to finish this out, So neither here nor there. I teased that we would hear from Dave Roberts on the Ohtani of it all, so let's take a listen there.
I get it. He's, the best player on the planet, and, he was on the heels of a huge offensive night, and, John smelled that and wasn't going to let Shohei beat him at all, obviously, and even when nobody's on base and putting him on to make the other guys beat him, and respect it. And fortunately, we have other guys behind Shohei that can still do some things. And, a hard-fought game.
Exactly like you said. Oh, and by the way, he's going to pitch today.
Yep.
So game 4 on deck in Los Angeles. Shohei on the hill for the Dodgers. -207 favorites we are up to now. Shane Bieber going for Toronto. They're +168 at DraftKings. Run total tonight sitting at 8. Also, for the record, I saw John Ewing of BetMGM post this earlier on Next. Shohei Ohtani +180 anytime home run. Most bet game 4 prop there is. So he is your starting pitcher, and the most bet prop for the day is for him to go yard.
How about yesterday? Yeah, it was +170. Think about those odds for a home run, +170, +180 for an anytime home run. That's mind-boggling in terms of the odds that you're betting into. -400 to win World Series MVP, Shohei Ohtani.
After he was 2-1 when we were talking about it.
What did we talk about yesterday? It was just maybe you just do it now.
Yep.
Because you've got this start coming. He's been hitting the ball well, and then sure enough, you have that performance, and he is now -500 to do so. So look, if you think the Dodgers are going to win this series, Ohtani is, I guess, the play at -400. But either way, They're set up pretty nicely. One would assume that you're going to get some length out of him as well today, and maybe even not force him, but he's pitched so well, and we've talked about the aggressive nature of this Blue Jays lineup, that if you're pitching well enough, the way they put the ball in play, you're not going to necessarily rack your pitch count up against them. Mm-hmm. And you can have Ohtani go out there and give you like 6 or maybe even 7 or after a game in which you really got into the depths of your bullpen. By the way, we can't go, because I did tweet this out yesterday, and I know I'm not the only one who had this thought. We should, before we fully move on, say a big kudos. How about this moment? You don't throw more than 30 pitches in your major league career, and Will Klein goes out and gives you 4 to at least keep you in it. He had 5 strikeouts, and my man was firing gas. Like, it were like 97 miles an hour. I think his last pitch was 98 miles an hour, and just keeping this team in it. Like, that game had everything, dude. That was great.
That's awesome. This is just the tip of the iceberg, by the way. We're going to have a lot more World Series conversation a little bit later on. VSiN.com managing editor Adam Burke is going to join us for a half an hour, like he always does on Tuesdays. That coming up in about 25 minutes or so. Lots of stuff on deck today. We will have a college football stock market check-in. We're going to look at some of the college football futures we put in the preseason and determine if we want to buy, sell, or hold on to what we currently have.
It's a great tweet from our guy, Dustin. I walked in the studio for cashing out seconds after the Ohtani game-tying home run and watched the end of the game on my couch. So he did his entire show, went home, and then watched the end.
So good. So good. We'll get some more plays there. We will also, of course, after this first time out, recap a little bit of what else we saw last night in the NFL Monday Night Football. The Chiefs cap what was a huge week for NFL futures. Today is also Frozen Frenzy Day in the NHL, plenty of NBA. So we're going to have all of the bases literally and figuratively crossed today on Money Moves. Stick around. Stormy, Buonantony, JVT with you live on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. We're live as always in downtown Las Vegas Circuit Resort and Casino. Had a fun World Series conversation last segment. We'll follow that up coming up in about 15 minutes when VSiN.com managing editor Adam Burke joins the program. But in addition to the chaos that we saw on the diamond, had, I think, at least from your perspective, JVT, a somewhat surprising result when it comes to the Commanders and Chiefs on Monday night. Don't roll your eyes at me. Another team.
Side shot, yep.
Another team we take a shot on as a dog. That this is just not the week for dogs. And I guess it hasn't been the last 3 weeks.
I was going to say, it's like we're going on a month now. What are we, like, what are you supposed to do?
10-2 straight up and ATS this week?
This week, I believe that would be the case. I'll double check for our notes from yesterday.
Yeah,
but yes.
So I think it's just the Falcons and the Bengals, right?
10-2 straight up, 10-2 against the spread favorites this week. Yep. That's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And as we were texting, because again, you know, I'm like, it seems like a lot. I'm gonna take 10.5 here, and then you feel good for a little bit, and then they just let go of the rope. But it's like, okay, like at some point, do we just keep going? Because you know, as you pointed out to me yesterday, you know, the second I'm like, you know what? These favorites are just getting it done. We should probably just go in that direction.
Just lay it with the favorites.
Yep. And
then
again,
the minute that happens, all the dogs are going to start barking.
What kills me is like I'm not like the I only got to bet dogs guy. But just this last few weeks, I've just been like, let's see. Like it's crazy to see the gap that is forming. It would seem between these favorites and the rest of the teams at the bottom. What's even crazier about this week is, to your point, the two favorites that decide to lose have very strong survivor implications. Mm-hmm. So, of course, in a stretch of games in which we've just had all these favorites come in, the update, too, by the way, over the last 3 weeks, favorites are now 32-9 straight up, 26-15 against the spread. Just killing it since week 6.
Public cashing in. 28-7 your final, by the way. Total stayed under. It was a slow start. Should acknowledge that in the first half for Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes, interceptions on his first 2 drives for the first time in his career. Granted, the one pop-up was just a bad break, but it happened. 7-7 at halftime, and then it was just complete Chiefs domination in the second half. 3 straight drives, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Coming out in the second half, Mahomes finishes with 299 yards, 3 touchdowns. Yes, the 2 picks, 30 yards on the ground as well. And Travis Kelce, have a day. So we didn't even mention this. The Sports Equinox Day parlay comes home.
How about that?
Let's go. So
that made the night better. We're hitting about an 11-1 parlay that we put together for the Sports Equinox. Did feel
so
a little
fun.
bit
And
better.
shout out so many of you guys listening. We got a lot of tweets of photos of your bet slips joining us on the Sports Equinox parlay. It all ended up coming through. Travis Kelce, the receiving yards 40 plus was our leg from Monday Night Football. The Penguins Blues game was a no sweat over.
Yep.
That went over everything. I think 10 goals scored ultimately in that game when all was said and done, 10 or 9, whatever it was. The last leg that we were sweating was the Anthony Davis rebounds because he kept getting sniped on a couple of them on the boards.
Yep.
That ended up coming home as well.
And then Scherzer too. So
yeah, sure. Which I was getting nervous about there for a second.
But yeah, because Scherzer, he left the man on and got pulled.
Yes.
So he was responsible for the guy on, so he needed it desperately to get driven in, which it did. So he gave up his third earned run of the night. So not without a sweat, but still, I would fancy a guess that there's not many 4-leg, like 11-1-ish parlays that are going to come in with that relative ease.
I texted you, teamwork.
That's right.
Let's go. That was fun.
Yours were the ones that were no sweats. You nailed it.
Sometimes a blind squirrel can find the acorn after all, and that was me last night. But Travis Kelce, 6 catches, 99 yards, a touchdown. Ties Priest Holmes for the most touchdowns ever in franchise history. Rashee Rice, another nice day in his second game back, goes for 93 and a touchdown. The Pacheco prop got there as well. We were talking so Pacheco comes home on the rush yards, although that took down to the fourth quarter as well. The Brashard Smith stuff, we reached the end of the road. And I knew it was going to be a sweat already just because he doesn't see the field a lot, and we talked about that yesterday.
Yep.
But then when he had the fumble, it's like, he's not getting the ball again.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually somewhat surprised, and Mitch and I mentioned this a little bit today on the Pod with the Futures, where if you look at Kansas City, and I think we mentioned this on our show yesterday, which was, if you're going to start to see this team bow up a little bit against the run, this is a team that is the best, I think you can argue, in terms of depth of skill positions that Patrick Mahomes has had. This team looks like they could be, not even could be. They are the best team in the NFL from a power rating standpoint right now. But this team looks like in a year in which there is no, at least right now, like monster at the top. I think one is starting to form here. And then there's the Chiefs, because of course I'm talking about the Colts. The Chiefs are very good, is the whole point.
The Chiefs are your Super Bowl favorite, plus 450.
Should be.
They're your favorite in the AFC, plus 240. They're odds on, minus 130 in the AFC West right now. Patrick Mahomes is your MVP favorite. It's just another year that everything is showing up, that stupid arrow. And, what are you supposed to do? It's just every single year they find ways. And now they're winning games at margin, which is something they didn't do a lot last year. We talked yesterday a lot about how those 7+ point spreads, they were always winning those games, but they're never covering them. Now it's back-to-back weeks. They're covering double-digit spreads. They're handling business like they're supposed to, and it feels like they're just off and running.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, the next 3 weeks of their schedule.
It's very difficult for them. They're going to point out they have Buffalo, they have Denver, and they have Indianapolis, I believe, are those 3. 2 of them are on the road. And then even the Indianapolis game, which you get at home, Indy is coming off of a bye. They're going to be in Germany to take on the Falcons. They're going to go to their bye, and then they're going to have an extra week to get ready for you there. So even then, that is a really challenging schedule. So we'll see. Look, maybe they go 1-2.
Yeah.
Having to play a road divisional game against the Broncos, team that almost beat you last year. Obviously, the blocked field goal. The Bills always play well against you. You're only a 1-point favorite on the road there. So, record-wise, maybe they do suffer a little bit here. They're going to lose, of course, week 12. And so you get, you go through this, and we'll see. But I don't think there's any question that they are set up to be the best team in the AFC. And I think it rings, not to keep making it about them, but it does. I think it does really mean why a team like Indianapolis would very much need to, and they're always going to keep winning. But the importance of being that 1 seed in the AFC.
Yeah.
Not having to go and play in that inclement weather, not having to go to Kansas City for a playoff game, and maybe, if it gets to that point, having an AFC championship game in your building against Patrick Mahomes.
I think that's huge, because if you ask me right now just to look at the Kansas City Chiefs and the Indianapolis Colts and you say, who wins that game? I'm like, where is it? I think
Easy answer,
I appreciate the side eye, but I think that home field is a critical piece of that, and it is very rare. What Joe Burrow's the only person we've seen go into Arrowhead in the playoffs and get it done. So
I'll ask you this because it was asked to me, but I want to hear your answer. So if we're of the belief that this is Chiefs team, and I think we should be, they are the best team in the NFL. They are the favorite to win the AFC. All of this is accurate. That it looks like we're heading toward them winning this conference yet again. Are we going to start to look at some of these name the finalist Super Bowl matchups? So, like for example, Chiefs Packers 13-1, Chiefs Eagles 19-1. Somewhere in that range where your Chiefs Rams, if you like that still, 17-1. Like, is that the way to start looking at this now?
I mean, maybe. Are you that sold on the Chiefs, though? I thought you would try to pair it with somebody with Indy.
I think that Indy is a very flawed defensive team. Like we've said this 1,000 times. You know, they're outrunning their opponents in a lot of these games. They also have played some really easy opponents. I think we're going to learn a little bit more about Indianapolis when they run into some pretty good competition. Obviously, this road game looms pretty large. I would even say the next two games for Indianapolis, we're going to learn a lot before you get to that Chiefs game. You have to take on the Steelers on the road. You have to go play the Falcons in Germany. Those are going to be the next 2 weeks going into their bye week. I think we'll get a glimpse of what this team kind of really is. Like, you even look at the Chargers game, for example, on the road. Look, that was a shootout, man. The Chargers had the ball down 14 early in the third quarter. They score on that drive. It's a way, like, everything changes. It's not as lopsided as that looked. So I think they're good. I think they're regular season good. I still have my questions as to whether that defense can hold up.
So who is your leader in the clubhouse in the NFC right now? Obviously, the Packers are the favorite. They're sitting in that 1 seed spot where it sits right now. There's a lot of belief in the Detroit Lions. You mentioned the Rams. The Eagles are the defending Super Bowl champions, but are they a fugazi team? Who do you see coming out of the NFC side?
I think that's the whole point of the question too, right?
Yeah.
It's like, all right, do you pair them up with a couple, like Chiefs finalist ones? Because it's like, who are you going to pick that you're like, I like this team unequivocally? I mean, as we talked about before, if the Packers stop getting in their own way, I think that's a team I could point to with some confidence and say they're the best team in the NFC. So if you're to tell me now, pick, I think it would be the Green Bay Packers.
Could I? No, I don't even think I could talk myself into this.
Which one? Your 49ers?
Hell no. Seattle, 35-1.
Sure, of course. I don't think, like, as much as I like Green Bay, I don't think, it's not that Kansas City is infallible, but they have the makings of a team that could be, a good deal better. When I say a good deal better, like a couple of points better than the next best team in the AFC. Any of these teams in the NFC, I don't think that's truly the case.
Speaking of the 49ers, you did get a little injury update from Kyle Shanahan yesterday.
Oh boy. We're back.
Brock Purdy is, quote, not a long shot.
That's right.
To start. So that's the update at the Giants this weekend. They are 2.5-point road favorites in that spot. Mac Jones is also day-to-day with a bruised knee. He gave updates on Ricky Pearsall. So Pearsall and Purdy will be reevaluated on Wednesday. For those hoping Brandon Ayuk might be back at some point soon, don't hold your breath. Another week that he will be unavailable. Also unlikely they get their center back or Bryce Huff. But they did open the window back for their starting guard, Ben Barch. So at least one positive injury update that is firm, which is nice.
The league is starting to push forward a narrative, and I am not happy about this.
Narrative in what, you may ask? We'll answer that next on Money Move.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Stormy, Buonantony, and Jonathan Von Tobel with you back here on Money Moves. And get this, you can put your handicapping talents to the test in the inaugural First Bet Breeders' Cup Survivor coming up. Pick against the spread in 2 pro football games and nail a top 3 finisher in 8 select Breeders' Cup races. You'll be in the hunt for up to $10,000 in cash prizes. Entries are due coming up on Thursday, October 30th. So head over to first.com/VSiN. That's the number 1, st.com/VSIN to get started. Also joining us on the desk as we welcome you back to the program, the one and only Adam Burke in his usual Tuesday spot, VSiN.com Managing Editor. We're going to get to plenty of World Series talk, some college football, but Adam, we have to start with something that JVT is very frustrated with. He said that the NFL narrative is, we're already walking down narrative street. What happened?
The NFL has tweeted out a graphic of who you got for most valuable player, and they've only included Patrick Mahomes, Drake May, Josh Allen, and Jonathan Taylor. Get Josh Allen out of here. I'm sorry, but, what are we doing? James Cook just ran for 200 million yards last week. He didn't do anything.
I love that that's what you're upset about and not happy that Jonathan Taylor's on the graphic.
I mean, he's going to win it. That's fine. But I'd like to see Baker Mayfield on there, too.
Adam, can a running back win it?
I mean, a lot of the top quarterbacks are kind of having I don't want to say mediocre seasons, but they're certainly not standing out as much as they typically would. So if there's a year, I guess so. But I will say this. I mean, I heard you guys talking about it in the previous segment. Like, the Colts are finally going to start playing some people at some point, and Taylor's not going to find as much running room or probably get as much of a workload, in the second halves of games. Plus, I mean, I don't know if the Steelers are any good, but Falcons' defense is good. Chiefs always have a good game plan. Texans coming up, their defense is elite. So we'll see if Taylor kind of stays on a solid pace, then yeah. So, I mean, there's also maybe some equity in going out and taking the price on him now, because if he plays really well against some better defenses, that price is just going to go down.
I mean, they'll also have some softballs on the schedule, too. They got a Monday night game coming up against the 49ers in December, so that'll be a win.
That's
wow.
true. Yeah.
It's messed up, man. Adam, the question that everyone has been asking around the sports world today, did you stay up for all 18 innings last night?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me about UTEP and Kennesaw State tonight. I was.
We'll get there. Give it time.
I was actually I was at South Point, so I was checking out the game there and hanging out at the craps table for a little while. So, yeah, it was. I kept looking up, and I'm like, this thing is still going, and no one's scored in forever. Just instant classic for sure.
I loved it. All right, so then as we move forward, let's just ask generally, when you get these many pitchers used in a game, how does bullpen usage, how is it affected in the next game here? Like, what do you think both teams are going to do? Obviously, you want length for both your dudes.
Right.
But after that, how do you think these managers handle this?
Yeah, I think it's going to be tricky, right? I mean, the one thing I will say is that a lot of guys that weren't really trusted to this point in the postseason by their managers had to go out there and perform yesterday. So that's maybe a good thing going forward for some of those guys. But you think about it in the context of the Dodgers specifically, like Roki Sasaki has not pitched a back-to-back. Mm-hmm. Really, I think he's pitched one. Well, maybe he pitched a back-to-back once, but he threw like 2 pitches, or that was 2 in 3 days, something like that. So you have to assume he's unavailable tonight because they're not just willing to put him at risk, especially now with the small series lead. But again, this is one of those things where the more you see a reliever over the course of a series, the more effective hitters are against that guy. So some guys maybe kind of getting exposed a little bit as this series goes deeper. That could end up playing a part. But, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think John Schneider's in a really difficult spot tonight. I think Shohei's going to be good. Shohei's just good at everything. Yep. But I think John Schneider's in a really tough spot because Shane Bieber's had a couple of short starts here in the postseason already. Had the 1 6-inning start, but 3 2/3, 2 2/3 in his other 2 starts. He wants to get him through 5 at a minimum. And he's had a quick hook for him. So I don't know if he can do that tonight. That's kind of the game within the game, and I do think this is a bad matchup for Bieber. So I played some things that kind of go, in line with that thought.
Well, talk us through it a little bit. What's in the account for you going into Game 4?
Yeah, so I like the Dodgers' first inning run, yes, at plus 170. Bieber's given up a first inning run in all 3 of his postseason starts so far. He's just a guy that, again, coming off of Tommy John, the stakes that he's pitching with now, facing good lineups as opposed to padding his numbers against the dumpster fire that was the AL Central for several years with Cleveland. He's a guy, the stuff isn't as good. It's not as crisp. It's not as overpowering. His margin for error is much smaller right now than it typically is. So I think the Dodgers are a bad matchup for him. I like, yes, plus 170 for a Dodgers first inning run. Similarly, Dodgers first 5 team total over 2.5. I don't know how long Bieber's out there, but they're going to have to go to a guy who either pitched yesterday or somebody who's really, really far down the depth chart if they pull Bieber early. So I think the Dodgers have an opportunity there. And Dodgers first 5 run line, minus half a run, minus 140. I think Shohei's going to be good. And I just don't like Bieber, particularly when you talk about lineups that have opposite field power. Bieber does not like to work inside to anybody, particularly right-handed hitters. Everything is on the outer part of the plate, and his fastball's not any good. So guys that can take him oppo with some power are going to have success. The Dodgers have several of those guys from both sides of the plate. So I just think it's a really, really bad matchup for Bieber tonight. And I don't want to mess with the Dodgers bullpen, but there's a lot of ways to play them in the first half of the game.
Is there, after last night, do you think there's room for Freddie Freeman to steal this award for MVP from Shohei Ohtani?
No.
No? Even with the walk-off last night?
Especially when you consider the fact that, Ohtani probably is going to pitch them to a 3-1 lead tonight.
Sure.
I realized he was intentionally walked 4 times yesterday, but reaching base 9 times in a game is just absurd. I realize it was an 18-inning game, but, I don't think so.
From plus 200 yesterday to minus 400 this morning.
Yeah.
That's where you sit. Freddie Freeman, by the way, 14-1. If you think that the Blue Jays can come back in this series and climb their way out of it, Vladdy Guerrero Jr. 10-1 as your second shot on the board, but it seems like not the greatest.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, like you kind of even wonder if the series is going back to Toronto.
That was going to be my question. Yeah.
I mean, last night just.
That's a selfish question on your part, though, laying 1.5 games in the series.
Yeah. It's so hard to come back from what happened last night. And then also, I mean, that didn't look good with George Springer either, who's been one of their better hitters throughout the course of the postseason here. And they've had a lot of pretty good hitters in the postseason. But immediately calling for the dugout, that's probably an oblique, intercostal, something, 4 to 6 week type deal. I'm sure he'll do everything he can to try to play. But to call the dugout right away, very, very bad sign for them. So, that's something that's going to be difficult for them, too, the rest of the way in this series, if it is something serious enough.
Okay, I guess let me ask it this way then, because I like these kind of thought experiments in a way. If the Blue Jays win tonight, how do they do it? Is it just as simple as you're going to knock Ohtani around, or can you just kind of wait him out and get to the bullpen? Like, what does a series tied look like tonight?
Yeah, I mean, so Bieber's going to have to keep you in the game, right? At least probably go 5. If he pitches into the 6th, that'd be fantastic. But I mean, look, yesterday was kind of the exception for the Dodgers, right? I mean, their bullpen has been the thing everybody's talked about coming into the postseason. Emmett Sheehan is a guy who was pretty good as a starter. He's definitely struggled as a reliever. Like I said, Sasaki can't really go back-to-back days. They're not going to put him at risk there. This is going to have to be Toronto winning 4-3, 5-3 off the bullpen, something like that, where Bieber just finds a way to battle through and keep him in the game.
Okay, you set it up. Big one tonight, UTEP, Kennesaw State, and you actually are invested in this game. There are two games tonight. I know Maction will be back soon, but it's Conference USA on a Tuesday today, so give the people what they want.
But you got to sell it. Give me some energy here, more than you usually give us. I know it's top notch.
Are you implying that I give you energy at any other time?
I was going to say, come on. The only time I've seen Adam go up a little bit in a notch of energy is when I dismissed him in a physical challenge, and he immediately kind of booked that. He's like, "What do you mean? I can take it." I was like, yeah, right, here we go.
I mean, there was that day when we were watching NFL at Overhang, and we were watching a situation unfold in front of us. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
That was pretty interesting. I got a little animated about that one.
Lady of the night.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
And then one being escorted out as well. No, so I don't have a play in UTEP and Kennesaw State. My number is Kennesaw State -12. So if this one gets under 10, maybe I'll play it because then I'll have a little bit of line equity there. But James Madison and Texas State is a game that I did play here. And I took the under 55.5 in this one. So James Madison is a very, 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 very good defense. And this is a game where we've got some wind. There's supposed to be 30-mile-per-hour gusts or so in this one. We saw the total come down Monday around lunchtime and then kind of go back up a little bit. But this is definitely one where weather's a bit of a factor. And if Texas State can't throw the football, if they can't be multidimensional on offense, or they can't throw the football very effectively, if they have to run it into the teeth of this James Madison defense, it's not going to go well. And James Madison, they don't create a whole lot of explosive plays, kind of a ball control type of offense. So I think Texas State can kind of slow them down a little bit. So I like the under in this game with the weather kind of being a pretty big factor.
I'm going to have to follow up on JMU in general when it comes to the conference and college football playoff type of stuff. Is that G5 potential team? Who is that team going to be? And I know you and Tim Murray on the College Football Betting Podcast were talking about some other teams and if they're real or not. I have questions about a BYU that you guys got into. I'm also curious, as somebody I'm going to be calling the Notre Dame Boston College game this week. What happens if Notre Dame runs the table? There's only so many at-large spots available. What does that look like? So we have to step aside here real quickly. You hear that music. That means Stormy needs to shut up. We will be right back, and we'll dive into more of that on the college football side in a moment, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
VSiN Pro subscribers now have exclusive access to our new AI player prop projections powered by Opta AI, the same trusted brand behind elite soccer analytics in the UK. You'll get data-driven projections for quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, compared directly to DraftKings lines to help you find value. Plus, tipping off the NBA season last week, VSiN's offering a limited-time free preview of our new NBA player prop projections as well. You can check out both at VSiN.com/NFL props or VSiN.com/NBA props. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Adam Burke also hanging out with us on the desk. And we're going to continue to dive into a little college football here. We're going to move off of the Tuesday Conference USA slate and shift gears a little bit. Although one team we were talking about, JMU in the Sun Belt, they are a very interesting kind of like dark horse. Is it fair to say that? Like a dark horse CFP team for who can get that G5 bid?
It's a ridiculous statement. I cannot believe that you would actually call them a dark horse.
That's not what I mean. I mean,
I'm making fun of you. Like, why wouldn't that be? That's fine. Yes, they're a dark horse to make the playoffs.
But like, is that even believable though? Yes. I wonder. So it's 8-1 right now is the current number for them. They're undefeated in the league. Their lone losses to an ACC team that I think a lot of people would say is quality in Louisville. How do you see their chances? Like, could that be legitimate, or are these teams that are like the Tulanes and like, are they better?
I mean, they're definitely better, but at the same time, I mean, the top of the American Conference has a chance to cannibalize itself the rest of the way here, to the point where, I mean, somebody's going to have to emerge and win this conference. I mean, but is an undefeated Navy team going to go to the college football playoff? Like, maybe, I guess. Like, they kind of have to by default. But, you know, I mean, it's just Memphis. I don't know about Memphis. I mean, that was a really tough game for them last week. Brendan Lewis is definitely not healthy. For Tulane, I mean, they kind of control their own destiny, I think, at this point, just because of, you know, what happened in the Memphis and South Florida game. North Texas getting blown out by South Florida kind of eliminates them from that whole, from that whole picture, I think. I mean, I don't know if I see a path for James Madison unless you have, like, all of these American teams kind of beating each other here late in the year.
Yeah, I think really the key is Navy, because they play both South Florida and they play Memphis.
Right, yeah.
So that is going to be... Like, if they split those, then you're going to be in a position where you're going to, like, somebody might be able to usurp the American in that regard. And I think specifically what you would want that to happen is, if I'm crazy here, I think, like, South Florida beating them, but them losing to Memphis or sort of deal, or maybe a flip that. Like, either way, like, you want that to kind of happen, and then you can have a shot. But, like, to your point, Adam, like, the response is, are they better? In this situation, it doesn't matter. It's just what the resume looks like. Yeah. And what do the other teams in front of you look like?
And for what it's worth, I mean, I think Navy loses this week to North Texas anyway.
I was about to say,
so.
they're a dog. Yeah, they're a dog at North Texas coming up on Saturday anyways. And I know the Notre Dame game doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things with the conference, but that an ugly loss, too, just in the eyes of the committee it doesn't impact that at all, obviously, but it's still just one of those things that would be an eyesore and they'd be frustrated
And I know Memphis is ranked 25th right now, but I think, you know, of the more attractive resumes, I think the hope was that South Florida was going to run through unblemished because obviously their non-conference resume was so strong.
So if the American, though, hypothetically, let's say you're right, and they do cannibalize themselves, does that then open the door more for a Boise State from the Mountain West than still over a JMU? Or are there other teams in the Mountain West that could be interesting? Because what I found funny is that everybody keeps talking about UNLV still, even though they just got waxed by Boise State. And San Diego State is kind of creeping up in the background, but I don't know if JVT and I are just a little bit biased when it comes to the Aztecs, or if you see them as a legitimate contender in the league.
I mean, it's certainly possible. The thing about it, though, is like, and this is definitely a handicapping angle that you want to consider. Some of these teams really need to put up style points and give themselves a chance. You know, like a Boise State has to blow out as many people as possible going forward because they've got the 2 losses already. San Diego State's the same thing. You know, I mean, like, if they win that Boise State game and they're able to do so in really impressive fashion, it definitely upgrades their profile a little bit to the point where if the American does kind of, you know, cannibalize itself, as we've talked about, then, yeah, San Diego State could definitely sneak their way into that discussion. But I think they're going to have to, like, win that game comfortably, along with not, you know, screwing up the rest of the way.
I mean, in theory, if you run through this, it would be a 1-loss San Diego State Mountain West champion who has 2 wins over Boise State.
Right.
So, like, but is that do you cut down your own resume by beating Boise State twice?
Right, because then they're a 4-loss team.
Yes, correct. And then after that, it's like, cool, you beat Boise twice, a 4-loss team. Oh, and by the way, the lone loss in your ledger was to bleeping Washington State, and you got smoked.
And it was ugly.
Yeah,
it was really ugly.
That is such an eyesore on their schedule.
Yeah.
That loss and the 6-3 game at NIU are just like, how? But their defense looks so much better, and I know
so much better. It's one of the best in the country.
It looks really
Yeah, it's
good.
great. It's great.
Yeah, but you have to take competition into account as well with some of these teams, which all goes into the resume factor as you guys are talking about.
What I'm most curious at this point, obviously the group of 5 is definitely worth a discussion, but the Big 12.
So interesting.
So, I mean, BYU is undefeated. I don't think they're
but I'm
that good.
obsessed with the Big 12.
He's laughing about the microphone being
that too.
down on the table.
I mean, it's only been a problem for like 6 months. It's fine. But no, I was going to say, I'm just laughing at you're so interesting. Like, yes.
It is. That speaking of cannibalization, that's one of those leagues for sure that's in that spot.
Right. And look, I mean, I kind of made this case on the College Football Podcast with Tim yesterday. I think there's maybe 3 losses left for BYU here.
Really? So you think it's totally
I think they're going to lose to
farce.
Texas Tech. I think TCU can beat them. I definitely think TCU can beat them. And then Cincinnati on the road. Like, I don't know how good Cincinnati is. I will be honest with you. I don't know how good they are. I mean, they really haven't played that great of a schedule in conference. We'll probably find out when they go to Salt Lake City this week and play Utah. But BYU, and then like all of a sudden Houston's kind of creeping up there where Willie Fritz no one's talking about the job he's doing with the Cougars. I don't like. Do we get 2 playoff teams out of the Big 12?
So this is my question for the Big 12. Largely came around. They would get 2 in my brain if BYU ran the table down the stretch and then lost in the conference title game to a Texas Tech or something like that, or whoever they ended up playing. Although Texas Tech now, if BYU runs the table, then they're a 2-loss conference team. So I don't know who would be that team. So that's my next question. Who do you think plays for the Big 12 title then when all is said and done? Because if you think that BYU has potentially a few losses left in the last 4 weeks, who's in that game?
Right. Well, I mean, if they lose to Cincinnati, then Cincinnati's going to be in that game in all likelihood. I mean, Texas Tech is probably going to run the table the rest of the way. I mean, Kansas, I have no idea what Kansas State is. Like, they are one of the most inconsistent teams in the nation. But Texas Tech should beat BYU. They'll beat Central Florida, and West Virginia is going to be playing for absolutely nothing in that final game of the season. So Texas Tech is going to be in the Big 12 championship game, barring some sort of debacle or like BYU getting really lucky, getting outgained by 150 yards and winning the game, something like that. So it's going to be Texas Tech, and then beyond that,
that's Houston.
Is there any? Oh, I was going to follow up on your Kansas State thing though, because they have played better lately. And is there any fear with Baron Morton coming back from an injury? His backup quarterback Will Hammond's done for the year now. You'd be on your 3rd string quarterback if something were to happen to him. Yeah. So is that game obvious a loss? I don't know.
And Baron Morton's hurt like all of the time.
Correct.
It feels like. So yeah, I mean Houston, West Virginia, UCF, TCU, Baylor. I mean, they could very well win all 4 of those.
It's a really nice schedule.
It really is,
to wrap the Big 12 season.
And Willie Fritz is a damn good coach, man.
Fair.
Texas Tech, Houston.
That's crazy to think about, though.
Right.
Just based on...
Especially because you look back at the first game that the 2 teams played, and like it was, I mean, Houston had injuries at the quarterback position, but they got outgained by almost 300 yards. Can
you punch it up? What would Houston, Texas Tech be on a neutral?
I don't know. Well, somebody talk and I'll look it up.
Well, because I'm curious as to your point about will we get 2 teams. I think there's a reality in which whoever goes to face Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game gets absolutely smoked. So, I don't think, to your scenario, Stormy, even if it's like BYU goes undefeated and then gets to a Big 12 championship game, if your lone loss is in the conference championship game and it's by like 28, is that really going to be strong enough to get you an at-large bid?
I have Texas Tech minus 10 right now.
Yeah,
on a neutral.
So I figured they'd be around a double-digit favorite.
Because a double-digit favorite is never lost in the history of college football.
No, I'm just saying the probability.
No, I get it. I understand what you're saying. Last couple of minutes here, should Notre Dame be a $3 favorite to make the playoff?
What do you think? I was trying to give you.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing the game. You've done some research already.
So my question is more around the fact that there's only 7 at-large spots. And so what ultimately is that going to look like? Because in the ACC, Miami doesn't control their own destiny anymore, right? So if you get a different ACC championship game, is Miami going to be held out of that in your eyes? Vanderbilt, if they run the table, that's another SEC team that you have to add into the mix. They're a legit team. In the Big Ten, Ohio State wins. You've got Indiana and Oregon. Are you going to hold them out? I don't think so. So there's only so many spots that are available. and Notre Dame does have 2 losses and played a lackluster schedule after those 2 really good teams.
Right.
But it is also a combined 4-point losses to 2 of the best teams in the country. So how do you see it?
Right. And I mean, is there a bias with the fact that they played for the national championship last year? Like, is somebody in that room going to go, well, we should, if it's all close, right, we should just let them in? And again, Notre Dame is a massive brand. Money is part of this too. So
and eye test is a part of it too.
I was just say they're also, I think, one of the 4 best teams in the country.
I agree with that.
And so what I think will be really interesting is when we get the first CFP ranking that comes out next Tuesday.
Yep.
And that'll get a view from there on what that means. Adam, you're awesome as always. We'll see you same time next week. We'll be right back, guys.